All right, so we're going to be talking about using triangle congruence and CPCTC to prove that parts of two triangles are congruent. Now, first of all, CPCTC, okay, stands for congruent parts of congruent triangles are congruent. So basically, if you prove that two triangles are congruent by either SSS or ASA or SAS or AAS, then you can prove that any angle or any side of those triangles are going to be congruent to the corresponding sides or corresponding angles of the other triangle. That's basically what it is. Now let's go over some examples. Now let's move it up. Let's go over here. They are giving you some information. They're telling you that angle Q and angle R are congruent to each other. They're telling you the angle QPS is congruent to angle RSP, so this angle is congruent to that one, and this angle is congruent to that one. And now they are telling you to prove that SQ, okay, is congruent to PR. They're not telling you, hey, you gotta prove that this triangle is equal to this one over here, or congruent to that one. No, they are talking about a side, okay, SQ has to be, so yeah, you have to prove that this side over here is congruent or equal, or basically that's equal right there, right, to this one over here. So the first thing you gotta do is prove that these two triangles are equal to each other either by SSS, SAS, ASA, or AAS. Okay, so let's go on like within the previous chapters. Let's take a look at this one. Let me use a different color here. So angle Q and angle R. Angle Q and angle R are congruent to each other. That's given. Angle QPS, this angle, is congruent to RSP, which is this angle. So these two angles are congruent to each other, and that's also given. Now, they give you over here reflexive property. Okay, remember reflexive property is when two angles or two triangles are sharing the same side of the same angle. So in this case, these two triangles are sharing the side PS. So they're sharing that. So I can say, hey, PS is congruent to SP or PS. And that's the reflexive property. Now we got enough information to figure out if we have SSS or SAS or SAS or AAS, all those postulates. So let's figure out which one it is. Okay, we got, and let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at this triangle here. Let's separate it. Let's go over here, separate it. That's P, that's Q, and that's S. Right? We're looking at this triangle here. We're looking at that one. So what do we got? We got angle, side. Angle, side. So that's what it is. Angle, side. And this is where we stopped before, right? But we gotta go further. Now they're gonna say, hey, how do we know that SQ is congruent to PR? So we gotta know that this is proven to that one. Well, we know that. Well, if these two triangles are congruent to each other because of AAS, so that means that PR has to be congruent to QS by using CPCTC. Congruent parts of congruent triangles are congruent. So CPCTC. So basically it's the same thing as before within other sections, right? But at the end, we're going to have one more line where you're going to be writing CPCTC. Congruent part of congruent triangles are congruent. All right, let's do some other examples here. So we get used to it. So let's move it up here. Let's take a look at this one here. Okay, we got two triangles. They wanted you to prove that BDA, they want to know that this angle here, oh no, that's the given, sorry. They want to know if, they basically want you to prove that AV and CV are equal to each other or congruent to each other. They want to prove that. Again, we got all the, we got to do all the givens. So given and given. So the givens are basically angle ABD is congruent to angle CBD. So we got that one right there. And then another given is that angle BDA is congruent to angle BDC. So we know that this angle is congruent to that one and this one is congruent to that one. It's given. Now, again, these two triangles are sharing, they're sharing the same side. So they're sharing that right there. So BD and BD, right? So that is called the reflexive property. So what we got? So let me separate the triangle so we see it. Let's separate the one on the right side. So we got B, C, and D. We got this angle, we got this angle, and we got this side. Hey, what we got over here is side, angle, no, sorry, angle, side, angle, angle, side, angle, angle, side, angle. And finally, well, we know that final proof, AV is congruent to CV. So AV, this one here is congruent to CV because of C corresponding path of congruent triangles are congruent, CPCTC. Okay? One more example. So we get used to it. Right here. So over here, we're gonna do everything from scratch. So the first thing, I have to write down the givens. So statement OM is congruent to segment ER. So segment OM or side OM is congruent to side ER. That is given. Side ME is congruent to side RO. That's also given. So we got that one and that one and that one and that one. Hey, what we got here? They're sharing, these two triangles are sharing the same side. So I'm gonna write down OE is congruent to EO or E. Yeah, let's write down OE. OE, sorry, right there. But you can write down also EO, it doesn't matter. And that is the reflexive property. And what we got over here is basically side, side, side. So those two triangles, triangle MOE is congruent to triangle REO because of side, 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 but we gotta go one step further, right? We gotta prove, we gotta prove the final one here that angle M is congruent to angle R, so angle M and R, so this angle and this angle, that's what we're trying to prove, right? This one with this one here are equal to each other because corresponding parts of corresponding triangles are congruent. Right? And that's the lesson for today. So please don't forget to do the assignment.